Chapter 4. And my children, after having taken charge of the service, took their meals each day along with their 3 sisters, beginning with the older brother, and made a feast. And I rose in the morning, and offered as sin offering for them 50 rams and 19 sheep. And what remained as a residue was consecrated to the poor. And I said to them, Take these as residue, and pray for my children. Perchance my sons have sinned before the Lord, speaking in haughtiness of spirit. We are children of this rich man. Ours are all these goods. Why should we be servants of the poor? And speaking thus in a haughty spirit, they may have provoked the anger of God. For overbearing pride is an abomination before the Lord. So I brought oxen as offerings to the priest at the altar, saying, May my children never think evil towards God in their hearts. While I lived in this manner, the seducer could not bear to see the good I did, and he demanded the warfare of God against me. And he came upon me cruelly. First, he burnt up the large number of sheep, then the camels. Then he burnt up the cattle and all my herds. Or they were captured not only by enemies, but also by such as had received benefits from me. And the shepherds came and announced that to me. But when I heard it, I gave praise to God, and did not blaspheme. And when the seducer learned of my fortitude, he plotted new things against me. He disguised himself as king of Persia, and besieged my city. And after he had led off all that were therein, he spoke to them in malice, saying in boastful language, This man Job, who has obtained all the goods of the earth, and left nothing for others, he has destroyed and torn down the temple of God. Therefore shall I repay to him what he has done to the house of the great God. Now come with me, and we shall pillage all that is left in his house. And they answered and said to him, He has 7 sons and 3 daughters. Take heed lest they flee into other lands, and they may become our tyrants, and then come over us with force and kill us. And he said, Be not at all afraid. His flocks and his wealth have I destroyed by fire, and the rest have I captured, and behold, his children shall I kill. And having spoken thus, he went and threw the house upon my children, and killed them. And my fellow citizens, seeing that what was said by him had become true, came and pursued me, and robbed me of all that was in my house. And I saw with mine own eyes the pillage of my house, and men without culture and without honor sat at my table and on my couches, and I could not remonstrate against them. For I was exhausted, like a woman, with her loins let loose from multitude of pains, remembering chiefly that this warfare had been predicted to me by the Lord through his angel. And I became like one who, when seeing the rough sea and the adverse winds, while the lading of the vessel in mid-ocean is too heavy, casts the burden into the sea, saying, I wish to destroy all this only in order to come safely into the city, so that I may take as profit the rescued ship and the best of my things. Thus did I manage my own affairs. But there came another messenger, and announced to me the ruin of my own children. And I was shaken with terror. And I tore my clothes, and said, The Lord hath given, the Lord hath taken. As it hath deemed best to the Lord, thus it hath come to be. May the name of the Lord be blessed. Chapter 5. And when Satan saw that he could riot, put me to despair, he went and asked my body of the Lord, in order to inflict plague on me. For the evil one could not bear my patience. Then the Lord delivered me into his hands, to use my body as he wanted. But he gave him no power over my soul. And he came to me, as I was sitting on my throne still mourning over my children. And he resembled a great hurricane, and turned over my throne, and threw me upon the ground. And I continued lying on the floor for 3 hours, and he smote me with a hard plague from the top of my head to the toes of my feet. And I left the city in great terror and woe, and sat down upon a dunghill, my body being worm-eaten. And I wet the earth with the moistness of my sore body, for matter flowed off my body, and many worms covered it. And when a single worm crept off my body, I put it back, saying, Remain on the spot where thou hast been placed, until he who hath sent thee will order thee elsewhere. Thus I endured for 7 years, sitting on a dunghill outside of the city, while being plague-stricken. And I saw with mine own eyes my longed-for children, carried by angels to heaven. And my humbled wife, who had been brought to her bridal chamber in such great luxuriousness, and with spearmen as bodyguards. I saw her do a water-carrier's work like a slave in the house of a common man, in order to win some bread and bring it to me. And in my sore affliction I said, Oh, that these braggart city rulers, whom my soul not have thought to be equal with my shepherd dogs, should now employ my wife as servant. And after this I took courage again. Yet afterwards they withheld even the bread, that it should only have her own nourishment. But she took it and divided it between herself and me, saying woefully, Woe to me! Forthwith he may no longer feed on bread, and he cannot go to the market to ask bread of the bread sellers, in order to bring it to me, that he may eat. And when Satan learned this, he took the guise of a bread seller. And it was as if by chance that my wife met him, and asked him for bread, thinking that it was that sort of man. But Satan said to her, Give me the value, and then take what thou wishest. Whereupon she answered, saying, Where shall I get money? Dost thou not know what misfortune happened to me? If thou hast pity, show it to me. If not, thou shalt see. And he replied, saying, If you did not deserve this misfortune, you would not have suffered all this. Now, if there is no silver piece in thine hand, give me the hair of thine head, and take 3 loaves of bread for it, so that ye may live on there for 3 days. Then she said to herself, What is the hair of my head in comparison with my starving husband? And so, after having pondered over the matter, she said to him, Rise and cut off my hair. Then he took a pair of scissors, and took off the hair of her head in the presence of all, and gave her 3 loaves of bread. Then she took them, and brought them to me. And Satan went behind her on the road, hiding himself as he walked, and troubling her heart greatly. Chapter 6. And immediately my wife came near me, and crying aloud and weeping, she said, Job, Job, how long wilt thou sit upon the dunghill outside of the city, pondering yet for a while, and expecting to obtain your hoped-for salvation? And I have been wandering from place to place, roaming about as a hired servant. Behold, thy memory has already died away from earth. And my sons and the daughters that I carried on my bosom, and the labors and pains that I sustained, have been for nothing, and thou sittest in the malodorous state of soreness and worms, passing the nights in the cold air. And I have undergone all trials and troubles and pains, day and night, until I succeeded in bringing bread to thee. For your surplus of bread is no longer allowed to me. And as I can scarcely take my own food and divide it between us, I pondered in my heart that it was not right that thou shouldst be in pain and hunger for bread. And so I ventured to go to the market without bashfulness. And when the bread seller told me, Give me money, and thou shalt have bread." I disclosed to him our state of distress. Then I heard him say, "If thou hast no money, hand me the hair of thy head, and take 3 loaves of bread, in order that ye may live on these for 3 days." And I yielded to the wrong and said to him, "Rise and cut off my hair." And he rose, and in disgrace cut off with the scissors the hair of my head on the marketplace, while the crowd stood by and wondered. Who would then not be astonished, saying, "Is this Sittis, the wife of Job, who had 14 curtains to cover her inner sitting room, and doors within doors, so that he was greatly honored who would be brought near her? And now, behold, she barters off her hair for bread, who had camels laden with goods, and they were brought into remote lands to the poor, and now she sells her hair for bread. Behold her, who had 7 tables immovably set in her house, at which each poor man and each stranger ate. And now she sells her hair for bread. Behold her, who had the basin wherewith to wash her feet, made of gold and silver, and now she walks upon the ground, and sells her hair for bread. Behold her, who had her garments made of byssus, interwoven with gold, and now she exchanges her hair for bread. Behold her, who had couches of gold and of silver, and now she sells her hair for bread. In short then, Job, after the many things that have been said to me, I now say in one word to thee, since the feebleness of my heart has crushed my bones, rise then, and take these loaves of bread, and enjoy them, and then speak some word against the Lord, and die. For I, too, would exchange the torpor of death for the sustenance of my body. But I replied to her, Behold, I have been for these 7 years plague-stricken, and I have stood the worms of my body, and I was not weighed down in my soul by all these pains. And as to the word which thou sayest, speak some word against God and die. Together with thee I will sustain the evil which thou seest. And let us endure the ruin of all that we have. Yet thou desirest that we should say some word against God, and that he should be exchanged for the great Pluto, the god of the nether world. Why dost thou not remember those great goods which we possessed? If these goods come from the lands of the Lord, should not we also endure evils and be high-minded in everything, until the Lord will have mercy again, and show pity to us? Dost thou not see the seducer stand behind thee, and confound thy thoughts, in order that thou shouldst beguile me? And he turned to Satan and said, Why dost thou not come openly to me? Stop hiding thyself, thou wretched one. Does the lion show his strength in the weasel cage, or does the bird fly in the basket, I now tell thee? Go away and wage thy war against me. Then he went from behind my wife, and placed himself before me, crying, and he said, Behold, Job, I yield and give way to thee, who art but flesh, while I am a spirit. Thou art plague-stricken, but I am in great trouble, for I am like a wrestler contesting with a wrestler who has, in a single-handed combat, torn down his antagonist and covered him with dust and broken every limb of his, whereas the other one who lies beneath, having displayed his bravery, gives forth sounds of triumph, testifying to his own superior excellence. Thus thou, O Job, art beneath and stricken with plague and pain, and yet thou hast carried the victory in the wrestling match with me, and behold, I yield to thee. Then he left me abashed. Now, my children, do you also show a firm heart in all the evil that happens to you? For greater than all things is firmness of heart.